Black Legion from 1937 was directed by Archie Mayo and features both Humphrey Bogart and Ann Sheridan in early roles of their career. The film opens up, and Humphrey Bogart is the character Frank Taylor, working in a big factory with Ed Jackson, who's actor Dick Foran, who I've seen before in a few of the classic Universal monster mummy films. Well, they're taking a lunch break together at the factory. Mr. Smith shows up. This is John Litel, who I caught recently as Doctor Flegg in The Return of Dr. X, also with Bogart. He comes out to announce that he's been promoted and that they will be hiring a new foreman soon. Well, Frank thinks he is the most likely candidate, but we, the viewers, shall see. So we cut to another scene. We're in a kitchen with Mrs. Grogan, who's Dorothy Vaughan. She's talking to Ruth Taylor, who's Frank's wife, actress Erin O'Brien-Moore, while Betty Grogan and Sheridan works away on some pies, and they're all teasing her about her relationship with Ed. Oh, will they ever get married? Well, Frank comes home and is greeted by Ruth and their son, Buddy, actor Dickie Jones, and he's back into his world of domestic bliss, and he is overly confident that he's going to get that new job. Oh, Frank, come on. You're going a little heavy with the foreshadowing here. He says things like, "I'm the best man in the shop, ain't I?" Well, meanwhile at Ed's place, he's having dinner with Betty, and he gets a phone call from the character Pearl Danvers, played by actress Helen Flint. She's on the phone with him with her weird flamingo thing, and she's teasing him, but we can tell that Ed really wants to kind of break things up with her, that she's kind of just bad news. Betty eats her food and glares at him while he's on the phone. Now, Pearl will play an important role a little later in the film. So, we get to the next day at work, and yeah, you knew it was coming. There was the big promotion, but Frank didn't get the job, and instead it went to Joe Dombrowski, actor Henry Brandon, who happens to be a Polish immigrant. Frank is disappointed, to say the least, but later, as he sits around at home bummed out, he's listening to the radio, he hears this guy boldly going on about the problem of immigrants and so on, and he listens attentively and really gets drawn into this message. Meanwhile, we cut over to Ed and Betty. They're out, they had just seen a movie, and they're at a soda shop. I love how simple things were back then, and wouldn't you know it, they get engaged over ice cream sodas. Yeah, that's just the way you do it, you know. I like their little romantic subplot in the film, even if it wasn't that tremendously deep. It was a nice, kind of light-hearted break to some of the darker subject matter of this film. Well, Frank, meanwhile, gets a tip from a worker about a secret group that he can go and meet with. He's given directions to a local drugstore to meet with the secret contact, and before you know it, there he is getting sworn in, going through this initiation to join what is sort of like this KKK group called the Black Legion. Frank has to swear loyalty to stay faithful or die. You know, that sort of thing. One of the members, Cliff Moore, was played by actor Joe Sawyer, who was in some of the other Bogart films as well. He was a familiar actor. Well, later, Frank goes out and he gets a gun. And he does the Robert De Niro thing in the mirror, you know. And soon, he's called off to his first trip, where they're going to go harass Joe and his dad. They're both Polish immigrants. So they go to his farm, they beat up the dad, and they burn down the farm. And they follow this by going out to have some beers and laughs at a bar. Well, Frank sneaks home, but his wife is really suspicious, concerned about what's going on. As are we, the audience. Frank, why? Well, the next day, Frank has picked up a new car with Ed along for the ride, and he's getting gifts galore for his family because he is the foreman now at the factory. Well, soon we discover that the Black Legion group needs more funds and more members. So they have a member drive where every member will go out and get 2 more members, you know, kind of network marketing style. While Frank is talking with one of the workers at the factory trying to get him to join, Mr. Smith finds out and confronts him, and he gets in trouble. And there are more lynchings that take place, and people are really starting to grow suspicious of Frank and this mysterious lodge that he goes to. His wife confronts him, but Frank slaps her like a jerk. So she leaves, takes the kid, and they go. And the mopey Frank wanders the streets. Now, Pearl Danvers, you know, kind of this sketchy woman from earlier in the film, finds him, has sympathy on him, And maybe this was a pre-code film implication, but it appears he brings her home with him. And both are at a table, they're drunk, singing, "I've been working on the railroad." Now Ed, who lives right next door, hears the drunken singing and goes over to confront his old friend. Frank rambles on, and in his drunken ramble reveals some of the details of the Black Legion and the crimes they've committed. Ed tells him to get straight and bring it to the police. Later, though, Frank meets with his Black Legion pals, and they conspire to take care of Ed. And soon enough, the Black Legion shows up, they capture Ed, and they take him out into the woods and give him a beating. He makes a run for it, and he is shot. Frank sees the body of his friend, and he is stricken with grief about it. He tries to run off, but he's soon apprehended by some cops at a local diner, and he is arrested. And while in jail, the Black Legion guy sneaks in and tells him to tell this fabricated story, that it was all self-defense, and he threatens him that his wife and child will be in danger if he doesn't. So Frank agrees. And as the film nears the conclusion, there's a big courtroom scene where Frank eventually takes a stand. Will he stick to the story? Will he tell the truth? Well, you have to watch the exciting ending to find out for yourself. No spoilers here. So some closing thoughts. This was one of Bogart's earlier films, and it's definitely different than other films I've seen him in. You know, he didn't really start to make it big until about 4 years later with films like High Sierra. And to be honest, this probably wasn't one of my favorite Bogart roles. You know, I see him ideally as the world-weary private investigator, the smooth criminal gangster, or most iconically as that cynical, heartbroken cafe owner in North Africa. Here, well, he does a fine job, but it's just not the Bogart I'm used to. Now, this was one of his 6 films that he and Ann Sheridan appeared in, and to be honest, she didn't really seem like she was in the film that much either. This was Ann Sheridan before she was glamorized more as the oomph girl. And maybe this was my mistake to watch this immediately following the movie It All Came True, in which both of those actors are very prominent and larger than life. I mean, heck, we even hear Ann Sheridan singing in that film. So, this is an older film for both of them. And it was also one of 6 Bogart films that featured actor Joe Sawyer as well. And there was some real history in this film as well. The concept of the Black Legion, I guess, was a real-life version of the KKK in the Midwest. And at the time, they had been accused of crimes, I think, around the Michigan area. Now, I wasn't really familiar with this group, but I did a little research, and there were a few films and radio dramas that were themed around this particular group. So I have some links below if you want to research it. The director, Archie Mayo, also directed the film The Petrified Forest, another film with Bogart, and that's on my list to check out. Well, that's The Black Legion from 1937. It is a good early Humphrey Bogart and Sheridan film, and it's worth checking out.